Good evening. My name is Madam Victoria, and today we are going to learn on Survey of the World History, EHS 12. Then, in the first topic, we are going to learn on the World War One. In this topic, we will learn on the causes and the effects of the World War One. Then, the objectives: you have to identify the causes of the World War One. You should be able to identify the effects of the World War One and the nations which were involved in the World War One. The World War One was fought in the year 1914 to 1918. Then let's check on the causes of the World War One. The first and the immediate cause was the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand together with his wife Sophie by a Bosnian student at Sarajevo. The second one is the system of alliance. A number of alliances were signed between 1879 to 1914. For example, the Triple Alliance of the Germany, Austria-Hungary, and also the Italy. Then the Triple Entente of the Russia, Great Britain, and the France. Then the third one was nationalism. It's the intense pride and loyalties to one nation, which heightened tension among various European powers. Then imperialism, the competition for the overseas colonies, particularly in Africa and Asia. This led to conflicts over territories and also the sphere of influence. The fifth one was the militarism. The arms race, particularly the naval and the military build-up among the European powers, created a sense of tension and insecurity. Then the Moroccan crisis of the 1904. This was the first Moroccan crisis. Britain gave Morocco as a country to the France, and the Moroccans themselves wanted the independence. They wanted their own independence. So Germany got into Moroccans and they wanted to fight against the France and the Britain for them to be independent. Let's look at the reasons why the USA joined World War One. There was a letter from Zimmermann. Zimmermann was a secretary of the German, which was written in 1917 to the Mexico. They wanted the Mexico to go against the USA, and this created a war between the USA and the Germany. Economic interest. In terms of economic interest, USA had more economic activities with the Allied powers, such as the Britain. They had given them loans, they supported them with guns trade. The loss of interest would lead to economic disparities on the USA. Then the cultural and historical ties. The cultural ties and historical connection to Britain, as well as shared language and legal system, fostered a sense of solidarity and sympathy with the Allied cause. Then there was Idealistic Goals, which was written by the USA President Woodrow Wilson, which encouraged promotion of unity, democracy, and self-determination in the USA. Then reasons why the Allied won the World War One. They had great resources and manpower. Then they were supported by the USA, which provided them with guns. They had improved coordination and strategy. They also had technological and industrial advantage. The blockade of Germany and the Allied naval blockade of Germany, which restricted essential supplies from the Central Powers. They had put into a blockade which never allowed transportation of guns and also food to the Central Powers. Then there was strategic mistake by Central Powers, which made significant strategic, including the resumption of the unrestricted submarine warfare. This also strategic mistake was one of the reasons which anchored the USA, leading them to joining of the World War One. Then reasons why the Central Powers were defeated. One, the the allied powers of the Central Powers, they had all the time to be assisted by the Germany, which led to weakening of Germany. There was economic and industrial disparities. The Allied powers led by the Britain Empire and France had great economic and industrial resources, which allowed to sustain the war effort over a more extended period. Then the blockades and narco-economic warfare. The narco blockade, which had been put across by the Allied powers for them not to receive guns and food, led to weakening of Germany. Then there was entry of USA. USA supported the Allied powers, and they had more improved guns, which led to the defeat of the Germany. Internal discontent. Central powers faced internal dissent and unrest. For example, both Germany and Austria-Hungary were dealing with domestic and political challenges. Then Allied unity. The Allied powers were more united as compared to the Central powers, who had some internal divisions and conflicting objectives. Military offensive and resource drain. Due to the naval blockades, they had insufficient guns, which led to drain of the resources. The Central powers launched several costly offensives in the years of the war, such as the Battle of Verdun and also the Battle of the Somme. The Allied counter-offensive. As the war progressed, the Allies developed more effective tactics as compared to the Central powers, which led to their defeat. Then there was also the prolonged nature of war, and the heavy casualties on both sides led to military exhaustion and attrition. Then loss of allies. The Central powers lost some of their allies, such as Italy. Then the World War I on the Western Front. The World War I on the Western Front was a significant theater of the conflict that took place in 1914 to 1918. It was characterized by trench warfare and intense fighting between the Allied powers, these are the France, Britain, and which were joined later by the USA. Then the Central powers, which was the Germany, the Austria-Hungary, and the Italians. The Western Front was developed on the vast network of trenches stretching from the North Sea in Belgium to the Swiss border in France. The trenches were primarily positioned for both Allied and Central powers troops and were characterized by horrific conditions and constantly artillery bombardments. The front lines remained relatively static for much of the war, resulting in protracted settlements, in neither side gaining a decisive advantage. World War I saw the introduction of new devastating weapons, including the machine, the poison gas, tanks, and heavy artillery. These guns, they led to killing of more people, leading to war becoming more severe. In 1918, the Allies launched series of offensives which combined with internal issues and exhaustion of the Central power side, led to breakthrough of the Germany army, which began retreating, and the war ended in November 11, 1918, with armistice agreement. The Western Front marked an immense human cost, with millions of soldiers and civilians losing their lives and injured. World War I on the Eastern Front. World War I on the Eastern had significant theater of the conflict that took place between 1914 and 1918, involving the Central powers and the Allied powers. The Eastern Front encompassed a vast expanse of the territory, stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea in the south. It covered regions that now part of the modern-day Eastern Europe. The Eastern Front was the first military action of the World War I when Russian forces mobilized against the Germany and the Austria-Hungary. Initial battles occurred in the eastern Prussia and the Galicia, with the Russian army making significant advances. Unlike the Western Front, the Eastern Front had more fluid and dynamic front lines, with both sides engaging in maneuver warfare. Battles in this front often involved a large-scale offensive and counter-offensive, resulting in the frequent territorial shifts. The strain of the World War, coupled with the internal and economic problems, contributed to the Russian Revolution in the February and the October Revolution, whereby they selected Nicholas II. Then the Central Powers were able to transfer forces from the Eastern Front to the Western Front. This contributed to the initial success of the Spring Offensive in 1918 on the Western Front. The Eastern Front's impact was profound as set stage of political, social, territorial changes in the Eastern Europe in the post-war period, redrawing of borders and the emergence of new nations had long-lasting consequences for the region. The Versailles Treaty now. This was the peace agreement treaty, although it didn't favor the Germans. The Treaty of the Versailles was one of the more peaceful major peace treaties that ended the World War I. It was signed on June 1919 in place of the Versailles near Paris, France. Then the results of the Versailles Treaty, there was territorial changes that they wanted the Alsace and the Lorraine to be returned back to the France. The loss of the Germany territories. Germany lost most substantial territories, especially in the east, which such as the West Prussia and the Poznan. The war guilt and reparation. The war, it majorly favored the Allied powers more than the Germans, who were the Central Powers. There was military restrictions. The treaty imposed strict limitation on the size and capabilities of the German military. German army was limited to 100,000 troops, and the Germany were forbidden from having tanks, heavy artillery, and significant air force. Then the economic impact, the reparation payments and the loss of industrial territories placed severe economic burden to the Germans. Then the League of Nations, the treaty established League of Nations, an international organization aimed at maintaining peace and preventing future conflicts. Germany lost their colonies. Germany overseas colonies were seized by their allies and distributing among the colonial powers such as the Britain and the French. The political consequences. The treaty and its terms were highly controversial in Germany and contributed to political instability. Then the long-term impact. Many historians argue that the harsh term of the Treaty of Versailles contributed to economic hardships and also the political instabilities in the Germany, which resented into World War II. Then reasons why the Versailles Treaty did not long last. The treaty imposed punitive and humiliating terms on the Germany. The treaty also imposed heavy reparation payments on Germany, which led to them having economic instabilities and also the political instability and economic hardships. Germany lost their substantial territories. Then there was also military limitation in Germany. National self-determination. The principle of self-determination, which was promoted as a part of the treaty, led to creation of new states in the Eastern and Central Europe. Then the establishment of the League of Nations, which became more supreme than the Versailles. Then the United Nations, a major player in the World War I, did not ratify the Treaty of Versailles and did not joined the League of Nations. This limited the League of Nations' ability to influence global events and undermine its effectiveness. The treaty did not address various underlying issues that contributed to World War I, such as unresolved territorial disputes. Then we look at the political effects of the war. There was the dissolution of the empires. The war led to dissolution of several empires, such as the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Then treaty and new borders. The peace treaties concluded the war, including Treaty of Versailles, established new borders and territorial changes. League of Nations. The League of Nations was established, an international organization aimed at promoting peace and resolving conflicts. There was shift in global power and political interest, and economic upheavals resulting from the war contributed to political unrest and revolution in several countries, such as which led to revolution in Russia. Then there was social effects, such as the death rates of the people, cultural expression. The war influenced art, literature, and culture, which artists and writers often reflecting to their dissolution and trauma. There was also the casualties and sufferings due to death. Some people lost their families. There was social change, whereby women took the roles of men in the societies. The experience of war, including the trench war and the use of new devastating weapons, left many soldiers with physical and psychological scars. Then we look at the economic effects of the war. The war resulted in enormous economic costs, with vast resources expended on military efforts, reparation and debt. The Treaty of Versailles and other treaties imposed reparation payments on the defeated Central Powers. Then the inflation and economic challenges. Many countries experienced inflation and economic challenges in the post-war period. Then there was economic opportunities. At the same time, the war created economic opportunities such as war-related industries and agricultural technological advancements, such as production of more guns for fighting. Hence, there was also development in industry for creation of guns. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.